What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another live stream for all you guys out there. And welcome to 2024. Spurs had a brilliant end to the year yesterday with a 3-1 win against Bournemouth, and even better with Arsenal losing at Craven Cottage to Fulham 2-1. But I hope you all had a brilliant New Year's Eve. I hope you're all recovering well from last night's celebrations. But welcome to 2024. This is your New Year's Day live stream for you guys. I'm here with Barnaby Slater from the Spurred On podcast to talk about what happened yesterday, and we'll discuss the performance and what we thought about everything going on yesterday. We'll do Twitter reacts as well, reacting to how social media reacted to Spurs' victory. But without further ado, let's talk about just in general yesterday. It was a brilliant win for Spurs against a very informed team in Bournemouth. They were, coming into this game 8 Premier League wins out of their last 10 games. As Postecoglou said after the game, arguably the most informed team in the league yesterday. And obviously coming away with a victory by any means is brilliant. But in terms of performance level in general, how do you feel like we played yesterday?
Well, before I get into that, Sim, is it worth me mentioning first what we said in our match preview? When I said,
of course you're going to bring that up.
I believe I said I had a good feeling about it because when Everton came, they were on a good run and we stopped that. And then when I just felt like Bournemouth being on a good run and maybe we'd put a stop to that. And maybe I even said I thought it would be 3-1. Now, Sim, I think I remember you saying that you thought it would be a draw.
Correct.
Okay, so I just thought we'd better check that. Now, in answer to your question, and Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you all had a good night last night. Yes, the performance I don't think was any better than a kind of 6.5, 7 out of 10, but it doesn't really matter. And I don't actually think we're likely to get better performances than that while we've got so many key players in our spine out. It's just that's the reality of it. So this period of time is about showing the desire and like the cojones to get through difficult periods. And Bournemouth were incredible. I was very impressed. The way he's got them playing, I think, is kind of exactly the way that we like to play at our best. And they caused us danger all the time, but it doesn't matter. We got over the line. We got the 3 points. We scored some good goals. And I think actually as well, probably Bournemouth fans would have felt just as edgy when we were going forward as I did when they were going forward. So it's just my kind of Spurs fanness that made me feel all the time like they were going to score every time they were in our final third. But the expected goals showed that we had many more. It was like, I don't know, 2.5 or something or maybe 3 or something to us.
2.3.
2.3, there you go. So, the stats men, the stats nerds would say that we deserve to win the game, and I'm happy to go with them.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And I think, first of all, in my defense for my prediction, I didn't know Bentancur was going to be back. And I think that definitely gave everyone a massive lift, especially when seeing the lineup. Like, there were rumours before a couple hours before kickoff that he might be involved in the game. No one really expected him to actually be starting the game, though. And to have that boost, especially going into January with Sarr, which we'll talk about in a minute, obviously bad injury for him, but Sarr and Basuma not going to be available for this whole month or for even maybe the beginning of February as well. To have him back, not just getting involved, but also starting games was absolutely massive. And I think it didn't just give... I think it gave all the fans a lift when seeing the lineup as well, but I'm sure it gave the players a lift as well. I mean, they must have known he was going to start, but I think it just gave everyone the mood kind of flipped going into this game. I felt once that lineup came up, it went from like a bit worried, informed Bournemouth team off the back of a bad defeat to Brighton. Are we going to cope? And then all of a sudden, when everyone saw Bentancur in the team, I think it gave everyone a massive boost and a lot more confidence that we're getting some players back and some of our most crucial players back. And to have him back, I don't know how he did it. He was supposed to be out for 2.5 months and he was out for 1 month.
Yeah.
I mean, how the hell has that happened?
Well, also very impressive from the club, I think, to not let anybody know that he was training all week. He trained from the Monday, apparently, every day.
The only one who let it slip was his wife.
And his wife did let it slip the night before, saying he's back. But I kind of took that with a pinch of salt because sometimes you see a lot of those things where players' partners kind of put an Instagram post out and it doesn't really lead to anything.
People are now giving her a tier one.
She's tier 1. She's tier 1 gold medal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm up for that. Fine. Give us some more information on Radu Dragusin, please. Bentancur's wife. Yeah, but I agree with you. Yeah, huge. And we've missed him. He's a Rolls Royce of a player. How did we get him for so cheap from Juventus? I'll tell you how. Paratici, criminal, amazing. Well done. Long may he continue with his consultation role at Tottenham Hotspur. And let's face it, it looks like we're getting our centre back from Italy again. So you can't tell me that he's not involved in that somewhere. But yeah, I think Bentancur is just a beautiful footballer. Also, I said to you before we went on air, we've got so many kind of South American players now who are happy to put it in and really kind of be quite spiky on the pitch as well. But he's just got a lovely, graceful way about him as well. And for me, what I loved about him being back yesterday more than anything is I knew that when Emerson Royal and Ben Davies had the ball at their feet, and especially Emerson Royal, actually, I knew that we would have a player who was always wanting to come and get the ball, especially him, but also Gio Lo Celso as well. So I felt a little bit calmer about the possibility of Emerson playing at the back. And we'll go on to it, but Emerson, I think, did pretty well. You know, he scared me at times, but he did well. And I do want to give a little shout out now, actually, because just thinking about it, how good Ben Davies is with the ball at his feet. We don't actually give him enough props for those, not only those driving runs he sometimes makes to kind of get 40 or 50 yards up the pitch when there are no other options on and then get it out to the wide left player, but also he plays those little balls through the lines. He's much better at it than I probably give him credit for. So I wanted to mention that. But yes, Bentancur being back, loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I was saying, it gave everyone a massive boost. And in fact, it was his interception, wasn't it, from Neto's loose kick, which obviously set the ball rolling quite early on, gave us the lead. Giovanni Celso's tackle finds Papa Matasar. I was watching your watch-along highlights, and you were saying, why is he passing it? And you know what? I was saying the same thing to Ben at the time. I was like, why is he, Johnson's in, pass it. But I actually think, watching it back, he played that to perfection, not just because he scored the goal, but I actually think he opened up the space really well. It was the right decision because the defender got dragged away to Johnson. He found the opening. Brilliant finish. And you know what? For that first half an hour as well, before Sarr went off injured, we were actually on. That was probably one of our best moments of the game. We were on top of that moment. We looked energetic. And that Sarr injury did really seem to, at the time, take the wind out of our sails a bit, didn't it? I think that it really did. There was a bit of a switch up in the game. Obviously, Sarr clearly very emotional because of he wants to go to the AFCON. Apparently, actually, the injury is not too bad, which is really good news for him. So hopefully he can still go. But in terms of the game itself, we were in control, I felt, albeit Bournemouth were threatening, but I felt like we were much more in control, very energetic. And then once Skip came on, for the next half an hour, 40 minutes or so, that game definitely flipped. And I definitely think it flipped at that moment. Yeah,
totally agree. I think Sarr showed a kind of an energy about him in that first 20 minutes that had really been lacking in the Brighton game. And I'm the first to admit, on the watch along of the Brighton game, I was disappointed with him. I felt like he looked leggy. I worried that maybe he was thinking a little bit about the African Nations Cup and was kind of 2 or 3% off it. And I wondered whether then, based on that kind of first 20 minutes performance against Bournemouth, whether Ange had kind of said that to him, kind of said, look, I know you want to go to this tournament and have a good tournament, but you've got to put it in for us. And I was really impressed with his energy and his legs. He was at his best in that first 20 minutes. And then, devastating that he got the injury. In terms of the goal, I agree with everything you're saying. He did open it up well, but I thought it was kind of funny how he did it. It was kind of like he went left and then directly right and then forward. It didn't seem kind of... it didn't seem like intuitive movement, but it definitely worked because, Johnson was free and that made the defender kind of wonder which one to defend against. Good finish. I think we've said, I remember back in the day, I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. I remember back when we first signed Pat Matasar, the kind of boys on the extra inch, the tactical boys who did their scouting on him were just like, he's actually got a really great long shot on him. And then ever since he's been at Spurs, he's just been ploughing them into row Z over and over again, to the point where now when I watch, I listen to the extra inch, they sometimes say, I think his technique for long shots is all wrong. But actually this one was great because he didn't try and hit it too hard. It was almost like a more guided, Harry Kane-esque into the bottom left-hand corner, and it was a great finish. And as you said, when he got injured, he was obviously really shocked and worried about it, but he tweeted, I think last night, saying more fear than injury, I think, looking forward to the AFCON. So he's happy to be going there. Sonny obviously off to the Asian Cup, and Basuma obviously, doesn't get on the pitch anyway, but he'll be at the African Nations Cup as well. And I hope they have good tournaments, but also I hope they all go out in the group stages. Absolutely. There was also another player recently. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Richarlison maybe last season. I remember he went. I think it was just before the World Cup, wasn't it? He went down crying because he thought he was going to miss the tournament. Again, it was a similar situation. And
he was
actually crying yesterday. We love a crying.
We do. There's been a lot of injuries to Spurs. So for those next 30, 40 minutes after Sarr went off, Bournemouth definitely took control of the game. I think it's fair to say. With like Solanke had headers saved, he hit the bar. In fact, it wasn't just that Bournemouth took control. I think during that period they actually had more possession, which is very rare for a team like Spurs, especially this season. How we've been playing to be outpassed basically by the opposition. It's not something that we're used to. Yeah. But did you in that 30-40 minute period or so when they were on top, did you ever feel like they were really going to take advantage of that, or did you feel comfortable that we were actually defending quite well?
No, I felt absolutely positive that they would score, and I was shouting at the screen. I was devastated about it. I think they got a number of corners. I think they had like 9 corners before we'd only had like 2 or 3. And I was just like, we're just not on the front foot here. And yeah, the Sarr going off really knocked the wind out of our sails. But you got to give credit. Like, we could have collapsed there and conceded, and we didn't. Their finishing wasn't quite there. And actually, that's where I'd say that's the difference in a lot of these games, is do you have players who are elite finishers? And although Richarlison did miss one, the kind of through ball, which I'm sure we'll get to, you know, he did put his next chance away, and obviously Son put his chance away incredibly, and he'd missed a chance before, which I was shouting at him about. But you don't get too many chances, and Bournemouth didn't really take advantage of theirs. I thought Solanke was a handful, looks a good player, but I've been asked before, do you think he'd be the kind of player that Spurs should be interested in? I'm not sure whether he has the personality to play as a number 9 for like a top level, kind of top 6 club. I could be proven wrong. I hope to be proven wrong. I think he's a really good player, and he's done it. He did it in the England unders age groups. He's obviously got all the talent. But yesterday on the big stage at a big time, when they want to have a really kind of big, you know, statement result, he had the chances. The header, he hit the bar. I know with one that was a good block from Ben Davis. But you need if you're going to Tottenham, you need to take those chances when you're ahead, and they didn't. And as a result, you know, we found ourselves 3-0 up in a game where, and Brains here in the watch along was like, I have no idea how we're 3-0 up, and it's true. And that shows that we have the elite finishers that Bournemouth don't.
Yeah, and I think definitely at the time, for sure, when we did get a second wind, obviously a bit late in the game, but just talking about that period where Bournemouth were on top, I felt like they were so intense. We've seen how they've been playing over the last 10 games or so, how Iraola has got them playing such a relentless pressing system, really suffocating the opposition. He likes to squeeze the pitch really high up. And I felt like when they were on top, obviously, they were causing us lots and lots of trouble. In fact, there were times we couldn't even get our own half. It was really we looked as Andrew was saying on Thursday, we looked a bit leggy at those points. I was wondering, where is his energy going to come from, you know, because I was also thinking, because of that, if Bournemouth get 1, they're probably going to get 2 because of that energy they were putting into the game. Luckily, we were able to just kind of see out that period without conceding, fortunately. But also, I thought there was some good defensive display there. But what I was about to say is, because of the way they play with their relentless pressing, because they didn't take advantage and score, I felt like then they started to look leggy when
about an hour.
Exactly, and then it kind of equaled out. And then once they started to tire, that's when we took full advantage of that. And I think in a weird way, we did something that we haven't been doing that much this season. Is we played a bit more of a transitional game. The chances we were creating a lot more on the counter attack, and I think in a way, yes, obviously in general we like to play possession based and we like to dominate, but it's always good to, in games like this when we are being dominated, to have more strings to your bow and to be able to be effective on the counter attack. And we did create some really good chances, like that Richarlison chance which he snatched at, and then obviously in the last 20 minutes, like that's where the chances were coming from, those transitional moments. And that's always going to be positive when in games where you're off it, you can still be a threat.
I agree. I also think, you know, what you said about us not being able to keep the ball and then winning the ball back incredibly quickly, that was exactly what I was complaining about at the time. Very frustrating. But I do think what yesterday really shows or reminds me of is when we have our full team back, how good we're going to be. Because I feel like a lot of the reason we weren't able to keep the ball and we were losing the 50-50s and Bournemouth found it really easy to press Emerson Royal. They were actually letting Emerson Royal have the ball as much as they could and then pressing him, knowing that then they'd win the ball in midfield from his passing not being kind of really zippy and tight enough. And the midfielders, especially once Sarr went off, Skip, who they could also press, not being good enough on the half turn, right? So that just made me think, when we've got Maddison back, when we've got Romero back, Van der Ven back to sweep anything up behind, when Bentancur's fully fit, when we've got everyone back, none of those things are going to be issues. Like, none of them are going to be issues because Maddison's going to come as deep as he wants to get the ball, and then we're going to trust in our other midfielders to get Maddison the ball in the pockets, and he's going to play people in. It's just going to be... basically what I'm saying is I've forgotten how good it was in those first 10 games sometimes, how beautiful it was to watch, and the fact that we're still winning despite the fact we're not able to do that at the moment is so exciting to me and so interesting. And yeah, sometimes you just got to give props to Bournemouth. I think tactically they did it really well, but they weren't able to keep it up. That 60-minute drop of theirs was visceral. It was very easy to really notice. And that's when we completely rolled them over. But yeah, I think it actually, you're right. It kind of stands us in good stead that they've all had to play Conte ball for the last 2.5 years before Ange came in. So when it does become a transitional game, they know how to do it. One thing I would say is I felt, and maybe this goes against Ange's philosophy, so that's why it doesn't happen. But I felt in that second period of the first half, when we couldn't get out of our own half, why couldn't we just maybe try and drop our tempo a bit and play the ball around a little bit slower and just get people on the ball and make Bournemouth have to work harder? Whereas what we were doing was playing those difficult balls into midfield, trying to tip it round the corner, and we were losing out on the 50-50s, right? But I'd still say that this season is all about, and Ange would say this is all about really drumming into the players that this is the style we want to play and we want to be exciting the whole time. And so it's just another one of those games where we have to deal with our frustrations in the moment because there's a bigger picture. There's a longer term view that this is all about. And he's still finding out whether the players who are on the pitch at the moment are going to be there for the long term. I think Oliver Skipp right now is treading a very thin line as to how long he's going to be around in this Ange ball revolution. Because he's going to get game time and he needs to show that he can do it. And at the moment, Bentancur, who hasn't played for like over a year, came in and showed immediately for me, as he did in those 20 minutes against Villa or whatever, immediately for me that he's got it in the 1 and 2 touch play, the half turn stuff. Skippy is still so clunky on the ball. It might well just be a confidence thing. He's an elite player. He can do it. I'm sure he can do it. But has he got the confidence to do it at this level at the moment? I'm not sure he does. Yeah,
I did really think he was struggling for large parts of that game after he came on, albeit I think there was a bit of a tactical switch with Ange when he brought Højbjerg on. He made it more of a double pivot rather than like a lone six.
Went to a 4-2-3-1.
And I think that did help Skipp, and I think it helped Højbjerg as well in that period of the game, especially late on, to give Spurs a lot more foothold in midfield. And it also, I felt like, helped Giovanni Lo Celso really express himself, and I thought in those last 20 minutes, in those transitional moments, he was absolutely brilliant, bringing the ball forward, and obviously got some really good assists. Some of his passing was absolutely fantastic. A brilliant assist for Sonny's goal as well. I think that was a good tactical switch.
Can you think of another player in the history of football who has a trademark move that is a double-footed slide tackle to try and win any kind of... Gio Lo Celso does it. It's fascinating to me. He does it when it's a 50-50. Sometimes he does it when it's like a 70-30 for him anyway, and he doesn't need to do it.
He'll just
on
wet
days, he just wants to... It's not like a two-footed thing, but it's more like he just wants to slide along the ground and use almost like his body weight as a block on the ball. It's an incredible move that he usually gets it right, but then yesterday he did it and took the player out and gave them a very dangerous free kick, which actually should say... Richarlison was incredibly brave in that because, I don't know if you remember, it's a left-footed free kick, Tavernier. And he puts it the side that Vicario's standing, but he hits it really well. It's going right in the corner. And just as he's hitting it, Richarlison takes a step to his right. And where a lot of players will turn their back, he didn't. He watched it all the way and actually almost guided it wide. Got to give him props because Richarlison gets a lot of stick. So when he does good things, I'm going to give him the props for it. That was great defending. Yeah,
absolutely correct. And going back to Giovanni Lo Celso, I think that as well, outside of the boot, when the ball's more on his right foot, outside of the boot to the left, that's becoming a bit of a trademark for him as well. And obviously, it was a brilliant assist for Sonny's goal as well, which Sonny finished. And then obviously Richarlison, who we just mentioned, he a brilliant finish from him. And that is also becoming a staple move now, isn't it? Johnson on the right, running down, first time ball across the face, and Richarlison with a first time finish. That's something logically as well. It's going to be very difficult to stop for opposition teams because Johnson is just so quick.
It is, and a lot of people have been wondering why Johnson isn't better than he is. I will stick to my guns and say, we have bought potential. He's still raw, but he's doing something, and I'm talking specifically about that ability to, without looking up, play the ball at pace in terms of the cross, but also whilst he's running at pace, first time. It's De Bruyne-esque level crossing, and it's very difficult, and not many players get that right. So the fact that we have that and he's going to improve over the next few years as well is very exciting for the future of Spurs, I think.
Yeah, and it was a brilliant assist for Richarlison again, who actually makes it 5 goals in his last 5 games now. So he carries on his brilliant form. I want to talk a bit about Sonny because it was a bit of a weird game for him. I felt for large parts of that game he was a bit on the periphery. What did have a few chances, but wasn't having his best game. And then he has this one chance in the second half, which he kind of screwed up.
Yeah.
And it just, I think like something flipped with him. And then all of a sudden, in the last 20 minutes, I thought he really came alive. He scored that goal. I thought all of a sudden he found some new confidence in the game. He was really starting to take that game by the scruff of the neck. And I thought he ended the game incredibly strongly. And obviously, when you got that kind of finishing ability that he showed for that second goal, you can never count Sonny out, even if he's having a poor game.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is confidence as well. I think Sonny knows and knew that he'd had not his best few games, even as far back as the Everton game. You know, he got that goal, obviously, but that was kind of more an instinctive thing. Whereas the goal yesterday was more like it actually got, the ball was stuck under his feet and he had to do something really incredible to get it in from that tight angle. And I think that probably just took a weight off his shoulders. I agree, he got better. And like I said in the last few weeks, I think he's probably carrying a knock and he's obviously thinking about the Asian Cup as well. And now he can go off there. He's not got injured. And he's got his goal, and he's third in the goal scoring charts in the Premier League.
I think he's joint second with Salah now. Yeah,
joint second, doing unbelievably well, and I hope they do well, South Korea. But I also cannot wait for him to come back because we're going to need him, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more. But it'll be very fascinating to see who Spurs do play on the left over the course of this. You know, starting with Burnley and then at Old Trafford and the rest of January.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. There's a lot of key things to talk about there. But just to finish off on the game, obviously we did concede. Alex Scott, boyhood Spurs fan, does come off the bench, and I thought had a brilliant cameo. He scored 1 goal and had another one ruled offside, which in the ground they seem to be taking a long time to look over. I'm sure, was it a tight decision, that header?
I found it scary, actually. I thought it was tight because Pedro Porro, where the cross had come from, Porro had stuck his leg out to try and block the cross. And actually, when they've stopped the line and started drawing the line, you think it might be because he looks kind of offside from where all the defenders are, but you wonder whether on the near side of the camera angle whether Porro has just kept him on. But thankfully not. It was his second goal, the one that was disallowed, was a beautiful header. Really
great header. I think at that moment it was right at the beginning of stoppage time, wasn't it? So they would have had quite a long time to have got back into the game if that counted. But luckily, that didn't count, even though I had a great cameo. We were able to see out the game. There was one incident as well to talk about, and that was with Veliz. Obviously, we made all our substitutions. Veliz came on and very quickly picked up an injury. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe a hamstring. I'm not really sure exactly what. He was in a lot of pain. But I'm not exactly sure what was going on because he was clearly in pain. He was signaling that he couldn't continue. But he seemed to just try and carry on for like a good 4 or 5 minutes after that incident. And it actually led to an incident where Højbjerg had 2 options on a counter-attack, Veliz or Son, both running in. He chose Veliz even though he couldn't walk when Son was obviously through on goal as well. And that was a very frustrating moment. And if Veliz wasn't on the pitch, obviously Højbjerg only has one option and he probably goes for Son. So it probably got to a point where Veliz's presence was hurting us probably at that point as well. And I don't know who to exactly pull the blame on as to why he was allowed to remain on for so long. Because after the game, I was thinking, surely if Ange just puts his foot down and says, you're coming off, that he comes off, surely. But Ange was alluding after the game that he was trying to get him to sit down and come off. And he said, unless I'm going to drag him off, what can I do? He didn't do it. And he tried to play on. And it goes to the character of he said it goes to the character of Veliz because he wanted to help the team. But it was a very bizarre incident, wasn't it?
It was. And I think it showed a bit of naivety from Veliz. He's a young kid. He knew we'd made all our substitutions. So he was like, well, I want to show that I can play through the pain and put my body in the way. But actually, he's just doing more damage to his body at that point. And yes, what he needed to do was just lie on the floor because eventually we would have kicked it out or the ref would have stopped it and then we could have got a stretcher on for him, carried him off. He's a kid. I don't think it would have happened to an older player. I think it is what led to then Ange having almost a fight with the Bournemouth coaching staff and substitutes. My feeling on that is that I think the Bournemouth team, the coaching staff probably thought that Ange was telling his player to lie on the floor to waste time. but actually I think Ange was telling him to do it so he doesn't injure himself more. And that is kind of like a natural miscommunication that if it happened that way, if I was in the Bournemouth kind of side of things, I'd probably think that was for game playing reasons. But it was fascinating to see how quickly Ange saw the red mist and totally lost it. Like he had
to be held back properly.
But it wasn't one of those fake holding backs, I didn't think, where it's like, oh, let me at him. He was really livid with the guy. It was really fascinating. We haven't seen that side of Ange yet. I've always known he's had the dog in him. You know he's got the dog in him, but really fascinating to see that. Australians not slow to really find a way to get at people if they're wronged, and rightly so.
I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of Ange, that's all I'm saying, 100%.
But, just a bit of naivety, I think, from Valise. A weird situation, yeah.
For that incident, though, is there any kind of blame do you put on Ange for not being maybe a bit more forceful in that situation, just demanding he lays down?
I don't doubt if he was shouting enough to, so that the Bournemouth coaching staff could hear, then I think he was probably doing all he could. And Valise was probably, he's a Valise. All those South American boys at Spurs show that they are, that it's all about heart and passion. And I don't doubt that Valise was probably just trying to say, or not trying to say, but just being like, I'm going to show how important this club is for me because he's just scored his first goal last week. He just wants to show that he can do it. And I would put more of the blame on Valise than Ange, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Fair enough. But look, we got the win in the end. Really, really brilliant victory in the circumstances against an informed team, and as well with Arsenal losing 1 point behind Arsenal now, which is crazy to think about looking at the league table. In terms of in general, obviously we're in a very difficult moment squad-wise, and there's a lot of circumstances surrounding. And it is weird because if you look at our form, I think after the win, we're now the most informed team in the league, 4 wins in the last 5. But when you just isolate our last 4 performances now, Forest away, Everton at home, Brighton away, and Bournemouth at home. Yeah. Obviously, 3 wins in those 4 games. The performance level, though, hasn't been brilliant in those games. No. So when you're assessing this period, obviously we're getting great results. But is there any concern for you about the performance level, or is it just you have to take all the circumstances into account and we're doing great?
Yeah, I think exactly kind of what I said earlier. It's literally just a matter of, can we get through these games at the moment? Especially, Ange said it after the Brighton game, we're having to play all the same players, so they're not getting any rest, and they're not the players that were clearly in the pre-season the best at playing Ange's type of football. Otherwise, they would have been the starters, right? So it's just been a period of time where it's like, what results can you get under this kind of duress? And they've been incredibly impressive because if you look, you brought them up, and you're right, it's really more fun when Arsenal lose. But Arsenal have not really had many injuries, and they are really suffering, and that's because Arteta's been playing the same 11 pretty much, not squad rotating. And it shows to me that I think Big Ange is doing a far better job than Mikel Arteta is this season, and he's not been able to spend £100 million on a player. In fact, he had to sell his best player for £100 million. So that's why some Arsenal fans are completely going insane at the moment and starting to doubt Arteta again. And it never takes them long to start doubting Arteta, does it?
Definitely not.
So let's see what happens there. But no, I think we're just showing the desire to get through it. And like I said, we have to keep showing that desire until kind of end of January, when we've hopefully get a full squad to choose from. And then the style of football could really get back to its best.
Yeah, and to be fair to Spurs, even though the performance level maybe in the last few games hasn't been top, but we're still scoring some really good goals, aren't we? We're still scoring some really good team goals. We're still showing those moments of quality when we really need to. And I think that's also a sign of a good team, even when you're not playing well or you're being second best, but you can still bring out that quality when to get a goal when the occasion calls for it. And I think all 3 of our goals, to be fair, yesterday were really good team goals.
Yeah, completely agree. I think the main difference is, we're just not able to batter teams at the moment in terms of, do you remember that first 20 minutes against Chelsea? Like we were all over them, and in a consistently front foot, just winning the ball back time and time and time again. We're not able to do that at the moment. That's the kind of big difference. And then also, are we able to? I thought the 4 fullbacks did well yesterday, really well. But in terms of defending at a top level and cover space and stuff like that, we're also not able to do that as well. But no, we are far and above where I expected us to be, and the performances results in the last 5 games are far more than I would have expected. Like, think about it this way: we won 4 and drawn 1, won 4 and lost 1 of the last 5. we could easily have drawn 2 of them and maybe got a draw against Brighton, but we'd be in a much worse place. So the fact we got 12 points out of 15, and that is really good. And I accept that Brighton loss if you're kind of saying, you know, we lost 1, but we might have drawn a couple of the wins. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's worked out really well for us over the Christmas period.
Yeah, 100%. I think to get the level of points we have, especially going into the Christmas period, you know, in bad form in terms of results, you know, to pick up 4 wins to the last 5, absolutely brilliant stuff. And look, with 3 points off the top.
Amazing.
I mean, does Spurs not get enough credit for being where they are, like in terms of how close we are to the top of the league?
I think we've kind of probably slipped up on come up on the inside a little bit quietly over the last few games. But also, you know, it's worth mentioning Liverpool have got Newcastle at home today. I think Newcastle are in terrible form. You know, anything can happen in the Premier League, but they are far more dangerous at St James's Park than they are away from home. I could see Liverpool maybe putting 3 or 4 past Newcastle, and then they'll be 6 ahead of us. Liverpool have drawn a lot of games, interestingly. They've drawn 6 games and only lost 1. But I would even say Liverpool don't look like they're dominating the league. City are starting to get there or thereabouts, even though they've had players missing. I think we're probably where we should be, but I would also go back to say if that Chelsea game hadn't happened with the injuries and suspensions, we would be right up there.
Yeah, 100%. And let's hope we can get some additions this month as well to really help with the workload. We know now Son is off to the Asia Cup. Postecoglou confirming that he will not be available for the Burnley game. Sarr obviously going to be off to the AFCON with Basuma as well. So a lot of going to be losing even more players now over the next few weeks. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Postecoglou adjusts to that. Obviously, having Bentancur back is a massive bonus in this period, very unexpected as well. But when it comes to how we replace what these players give us, or who's going to come in for Son on the left, who comes in for Sarr in midfield as well. Obviously, we know Bentancur is going to come in for Basuma. If you were Ange and if you just got the players, assuming we don't bring anyone in, if you just got the players at your disposal, how do you manage these next few games?
Well, I mean, I think the Burnley one's interesting because obviously our only experience of Ange in a cup competition so far disappointed a lot of the fan base because he didn't play his strongest team. We don't have a lot of options, I don't think, other than whether... 2 things I'm kind of thinking off the top of my head for this Burnley game. Will he now blood some of those players that people have been asking him to blood? So would Alfie Dorrington get a game at centre-half or Ashley Phillips?
Am I right in thinking Donnelly was stripped off to come on yesterday?
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that. Okay, fine.
Jamie Donnelly has obviously had a few cameo minutes, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if maybe Donnelly got a start. But let's say he doesn't. Would Ange be brave enough to play Bentancur, Gio and Kulusevski as a 3 in midfield? It's a very forward-thinking midfield. It would be unbelievably fun to watch, I think. I think it really would. And I guess if that were to happen, then it would be probably, Johnson on the right, Richarlison, and then Brian Hill, I guess, on the left. I'm not really sure what the other options are on the left. There's been a lot of talk of us being interested in getting another winger in January, and you can kind of see why. But, and this is something we talked about the other day, if Ryan Sessegnon or even Perisic were fit, they would be getting minutes now as the kind of left forward role. And actually, I think if you took the defensive responsibility away from Sessegnon, he might have made a good option. I know lots of Spurs fans currently, throwing their old mince pies at me, but he's an unbelievable crosser of the ball, just like Brennan Johnson is, and he's got pace, but also you've got to think his hamstrings. So I don't know. I mean, who do you think will come in on the left? I'm not sure, basically.
I've got a feeling that maybe Kulusevski could get a run on that side, because there was a little cameo when against Newcastle for about 15 minutes. He played Kulusevski on the left and Johnson on the right, and Kulusevski actually looked quite creative in that role. He actually looked quite good. I don't think he was like taking people on, but when he got into like the final third, he was able to obviously got great delivery. He was able to pick someone out, and he created a few chances. I remember he created a really great floated cross for Ollie Skip, who should have scored near the end. So I'm feeling maybe if he goes Kulusevski on the left, Johnson on the right, Rishi up front, and then it would be Bentancur, Lo Celso, and probably Skip, I'm guessing. Skip or Højbjerg. Yeah. So there's that option. Obviously, you could go really at that attacking midfield, and maybe you could put Brian Hill on the left, and because I don't think he's going to want to move Johnson from the right. That's the thing.
No,
I think he's going to want to keep him there.
He shouldn't. I mean, the other option is he brings in Jamie Donnelly as the third kind of central midfielder, and then Yeah, Kulusevski or Johnson. I don't know. That's why I think the Burnley game on Friday night would be interesting to see, because it'll kind of, I think, give an idea of what might then happen for the rest of January, because after that we've got Old Trafford.
I've got a feeling on Burnley he's going to give Hill a go. Just to, he's going to give him a chance and see if he can do it, because he in the games that he started, it's been very difficult games, isn't it? He started the Etihad, he started against Villa. I can't remember. I think those are the only 2 starts, isn't it? And then I think he got dropped after that. So maybe he's going to say, look, Burnley at home, this is a great opportunity to really show you can, against Premier League opposition, even though it's not the best Premier League opposition, that you can really take the game to them and cause them a lot of trouble. And if he puts him in again from the start and he's still, not doing it, then I think maybe he gets dropped again.
Do you think he should have scored from half a yard out yesterday?
Maybe, just about. I think just about.
It
wasn't as easy as it
behind him.
Yeah.
It was a tiny bit behind him, and obviously his hair was in his eyes, which I understand. So.
Is that a problem that you've encountered a lot?
The thing is with Bryan Hill, he's obviously such a lovely boy, and he's obviously very talented, but, he's missing one thing extra. So if he had an extra yard of pace, right, then he'd be great. Or if he had an extra kind of foot of height and of physicality, then he'd be great. But without one of those 2 things, I'm just not sure it's going to happen. And it'd be interesting to see. Maybe he will play against Burnley, but he needs to do something that ups his confidence level a lot, because he kind of just does a lot of bustling about and no kind of final ball at the moment or goal.
All right. Well, before we get into the player ratings, let's look at some comments from you guys. Rick in Rio says, "Big up, lads. Big up, lads. Thanks. Do we think that Gio is fixing to stay? He was in the programme talking positively, and he was mustered yesterday. Give him an extension, Ange." Obviously, I think Gio has 18 months left on his deal.
Yeah.
He actually was very interesting, some of the comments he was saying in his programme, talking about how much more settled he feels at the moment with the new manager and everything. Are you still thinking? Are you still questioning whether he has a long-term future here, or are you thinking things are starting to turn for Gio?
Well, the fact that he came out in the club programme and said how positive he was at being at Spurs kind of made me slightly change my opinion on him a bit, because I kind of felt he was always kind of angling for a move back to Spain. Obviously, he's had a lot of loans there. He picks up injuries incredibly easily, gets injured a lot when he goes off to play for Argentina. And it just kind of gave me an idea that maybe he just wasn't kind of fully coy, let's put it that way, and was maybe not delighted to be living in England. But he's come out and he said he loves it. He loves it under Ange. And if he genuinely does, and he for me, I think is a perfect squad player, the type of football he plays, and someone who could come in when one of Maddison, Bentancur, Bissouma, etc. are off form or are unfit or are suspended, and we're going to pick up a lot of suspensions because of the way we play on the front foot and pressing high. I think he's a perfect option within the kind of 6 or 7 that we need in central midfield. So I would give him a new contract if he is genuinely happy to be here and happy to play for his place. But if the Barcelona rumours come back up again, and I think your brother said yesterday, in fact, that he would probably take a bid from them if Barcelona came in. He said it on the text, I think. If a bid came in and Gio said, "Oh, I'm not sure, actually, I don't want to sign a new contract," then at some point you'd have to think about, okay, we'll take the money and maybe then invest it in someone like Conor Gallagher or whoever else is on the recruitment team's list.
Yeah, but I'm just delighted to see him performing to a level that we know that he definitely I thought when he first came in his first season, they had a little stretch of games under Mourinho where he was looking so good, and that's obviously when we were convinced to sign him permanently, and he's just really stagnated for so many years. But I've always seen there's clearly a very talented player there. We've seen it for Argentina as well. So I'm so happy that he's been on the pitch this season and he's really taking his opportunities to show that he can definitely be a very good player for us, because he's, a lot of people have doubted him for so many years, and I've always believed that there's a very good player in there.
Yeah, and just one more thing, what you said made me think about. If we wanted to replace Gio Lo Celso with someone of a similar talent level at a similar age, we'd have to pay probably 70, 80 million pounds, realistically.
That's true.
Unless you're getting lucky with them running down their contract or something. And that's why Gallagher interests Spurs, I think, because he's running down his contract, he's not signing a new one. But if Conor Gallagher was, had 4 years on his contract, you'd be looking at paying 70, 80 million pounds. That's just the reality of it. And the same with someone from abroad. So if you look at it that way, and he gets on with Ange obviously loves him. I agree with everything you say about his talent and his ability on the pitch. Then get him signed up to a 3-year deal. That's what I think.
Yeah, agreed. It's only going to allow us to keep his value. Another comment here from Mr. M. It says, Barnaby definitely rides a bike, the old style one with the bread basket on the front. Is that true?
I couldn't be sure. When he said old style one, I assumed you meant penny farthing.
Do you write you a bike rider?
No, my penny farthing broke, unfortunately. So these days I'm just yeah, no, I know what he means. No, unfortunately I was tarred with a stupid posh name. And grew up in a stupid posh county. It's not my fault, but I'm stuck with it. But thanks, guys.
Charles Preston brings up a decent point. He says maybe Scarlett will start versus Burnley. I don't think he'll start, but we didn't touch him in terms of options. Now Valise obviously is injured. Scarlett's getting an immediate promotion, isn't he?
Huge open chance for Dane Scarlett to push it. Now he didn't get a chance at Ipswich, which is unfortunate. Look, he's going to come in. What I would say about Dane Scarlett is, I feel strongly that if we make chances for him similar to the ones that Richarlison has been taking, those 6-yard box chances, he'll probably score some goals, because I saw enough of him in some preseason games over the last few years, and the Shakhtar game, he scored a good goal there. What I'm not sure about him though is he going to be able to hold it up back to goal, kind of halfway inside the opponent's half, more direct passing into him? That's going to be trouble, because he's still not really filled out. And actually, although Richarlison, he wasn't elite at that yesterday, he really got his body in a lot. There was a lot of that kind of pushing, kind of backing into his defender and holding it up better than he has done previously. So yeah, I think Scarlett will get some game time, but he's clearly not the finished article yet. Yeah,
100%. I think that's fair to say. He's still very young, but this is a really good opportunity to really get some minutes and hopefully show that, everyone's very excited about him being a future striker for Tottenham. But hopefully if he does get the opportunity, he really, really grabs it with both hands. It's interesting to see Troy Parrott as well, out loan at the moment.
He's doing well, isn't he?
He is at Excelsior, scoring quite a few goals in the Eredivisie. So it'll be interesting to see if what happens with him in the summer when he comes back. All right, let's get into the player ratings then. And we'll start with Vicario. We both gave him a 7. Bournemouth had a lot of attempts, but not many on target, I don't think, in general. I can remember one save from a Solanke header, which from a corner. Apart from that, he had a good game overall dealing with set pieces, but wasn't actually truly tested that much due to maybe some poor finishing from Bournemouth.
Yeah, I've just given him a 7. I didn't think he put a foot wrong, basically. The save that you're talking about was a kind of back stick header from the corner, from the in-swinging corner. And I would actually say he could have caught that. But
you reckon?
Yeah, he could have caught it, but I get why he didn't, because if he tries to catch it and it drops down, then it's a goal. So what he's gone for is the kind of palm out, try and get as much distance on it as can, and we were fortunate that it fell at the feet of one of our defenders. But still, you've got to make the save, you've got to be in the right position to make the save. And the rest of it, yeah, didn't put a foot wrong. And it just goes to show, once again, I'll say it again, how good it is to just have a keeper where he's just going to make the right decisions 99.9% of the time. And, on a day where we said goodbye to one of our best ever goalkeepers, a club legend, it's been amazing how the transition from one to the other has gone. And also, we should give some credit to Hugo Lloris for that. Never threw his toys out the pram, trained with him, and said in his statement about Hugo Lloris that it was great for Vicario to be in the changing room and sharing a kind of training ground with Hugo Lloris. So he's clearly helped him in the transition. And, I love Vicario. I think we've done very well.
I absolutely agree. Next up is the right back, Pedro Porro. We both gave him a 7. I did think Sinisterra, especially in that first half, was actually giving him quite a tough ride on that side. I did think he struggled to kind of put a challenge in, albeit he didn't really get absolutely roasted at any point. But I did think Sinisterra was giving a bit of trouble. I think on the ball, it wasn't just him, but we were struggling to really break Bournemouth's press, and he wasn't really able to find any of the front three. However, I did think he ended the game really strongly, and I thought in those last 20 minutes, he found this second win, this new confidence. He was taking people on, and I actually think in those last 20 minutes he finished the game really, really strongly. So I gave him a 7.
Yeah, and that last 20 minutes coincided with what we discussed earlier about Bournemouth really dropping off and not being able to keep up the kind of intensity that they had in the first 60 or 65 minutes. One thing I'd say about Porro, and this is why I've given him a 7, is he doesn't get a lot of help from Brennan Johnson. He's quite often doubled up against. Brennan, I feel like he's learning a bit on the defensive side, but he makes so many endless kind of forward runs that he's not really got the legs to always be back in time. And Bournemouth were very quick. When they'd won the ball back, they were very quick on the transition. So I'm not blaming Johnson. I'm just saying that Porro yesterday, I felt like did a lot of kind of having to backtrack against two people coming at him and make decisions as to go with the outside or where the ball was. So I've given him a 7. I didn't think he was outstanding, but I don't think he really put much of a foot wrong, and that's why I gave him that.
All right, Emerson Royale. I gave him an 8. Barnaby gives him a 7. I thought he had a pretty decent performance, actually, considering how poor he was on Thursday night as well. Obviously, he played a major role in our third goal with a beautiful clipped pass out to Brennan Johnson, which obviously set us on the way to scoring that one. Obviously, had a really nice effort in the first half as well from 25 yards. Very un-Emerson, which forced a good save out of the goalkeeper. I did think in general he defended fairly well, albeit Solanke did get quite a bit of joy aerially out of our both our centre-backs. But I actually thought it was an improvement by Emerson, so I gave him an 8.
Well, I didn't think Emerson was as bad in the previous game as you did, and therefore I didn't feel he was so much better this time as you did. So I've gone for a 7, haven't I, with Emerson Royale? The reason I've gone for a 7 is when he had the ball, especially in the first half, I just felt very uncomfortable a lot of the time. But yes, he did fine, and he played a beautiful ball down the line to Johnson, which ended up in the goal, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was worthy of a plus point for me as well. I think he did absolutely fine, and most importantly, as I've said before, always gives 100%, tries to do his best. Clearly a great team player, good for the motivation and the morale of the team as well, because he seems like a kind of slightly insane madman. I love that about him. And he's great. He's a great squad player in terms of the morale especially. But I'm hopeful. I said it in the watch along yesterday. I'm hopeful that yesterday was the last game we'll see him play at centre back for Spurs. Yeah,
I completely agree with that. Albeit as well, you made a good point when we were talking the review. He didn't really cover himself in much glory with the goal we conceded as well. He wasn't.
He rushed out of position, and it's one of those things. Like, I tend to play centre back when I play football these days, and sometimes you are like attracted by the ball, and you have to sometimes tell yourself, no, don't try and be the hero here. Just let that person go and take that ball in that area, because it's more important that I'm here for the seconds. And he wasn't. And that's why Alex Scott was, he had, 10 yards around him, really. Still a good finish, but yeah, I agree. So that's why I didn't give him an 8.
All right, his partner, Ben Davis, I gave him an 8. Barnaby gives him a 9. I thought a really strong showing from Ben Davis on this occasion. Really great playing out the back. I thought there was that one moment in the second half as well. He just marauded down that left-hand side, and Destiny Udogie style, he was just gliding past people and earned a free kick in a real crucial moment for us. Obviously made a really crucial block from a Solanke shot, which it got tipped onto the bar. I thought, again, he's been pretty consistent, to be fair to him, ever since he's come to the side at centre-back, and I thought yesterday was another strong performance added to the list.
Absolutely. I actually feel very strongly that he was worthy of a 9 yesterday. You mentioned already the break down the line, which is brilliant. His passing was kind of surprisingly good at times. He if you compare him to Royale in terms of his passing from the back, he just puts more zip on it. He's more confident with it, and that's, that makes sense. Royale's that's not part of his game, fine. But very good that he has the bravery to pass it in between the lines, more dangerous areas, kind of brave passing. And yeah, that breakdown. And then, as ever, just gets his body on the line, puts his body on the line, gets his body in front of difficult shots and chances. And, without Ben Davis yesterday, I don't think we'd have won that game nearly as comfortably in the end in terms of the scoreline. So worthy of a 9 for me. Gentle Ben, keep him at the club for as long as possible. Sign him up.
There we go. Left back, Destiny Udogie. We both gave him a 9 for this one. I thought where his great work was really important was defensively, because there was a few occasions, must have been 3 or 4 occasions, where Bournemouth were actually getting in behind. They got the better of Davis or Emerson, and Udogie just was there, coming out of nowhere to mop up, making sure they don't get a good quality chance. There was a few occasions Solanke was in over the top. They played some really good passes into him, and Udogie was just there sweeping up, and he did that on multiple occasions. And I think a lot of it was down to him, why Bournemouth were restricted to not the good quality chances they could have had, because they'd made some really good passes in behind, some really good chances. But Udogie was just there time and time again, wasn't he, to stop Bournemouth in their tracks and make sure that no good chance came of those opportunities. And also, I think going forward, as we've seen, he always has his late charge in the 90th minute. He seemed to have another one on this occasion. And I think from an offensive point of view, he did seem to grow into the game later on. But I thought a lot of his amazing work was defensively on this one.
Yeah, I think it was 3 times in the first half, in fact, that he really covered us and saved us. It was incredible. Actually, he was borderline getting a 10 from me, Destiny Udogie, yesterday. I thought he was unbelievable. The only reason I haven't given him a 10 is because I think maybe he to get a 10, maybe you need to get a goal. You know what I mean? Like I need to give people 10s. There needs to be something on top, like the cherry on top as well. But his performance was unbelievable. I was so scared when he went down with cramp. You wouldn't believe. I was so excited when I found out it was just cramp. Because if we lost him for a long time, we would really struggle. He is absolutely, for me, one of the most important, if not the most important cog in this wheel, because he offers us so much going back and forward. We don't have any other options, certainly not fit at the moment to do that. So a 9 for me for Udogie, but could have been a 10.
Yeah, absolutely exceptional from Destiny. Next up, a surprise return for Rodrigo Bentancur. I gave him a 7. Barnaby gives him an 8. Obviously, only lasted an hour on this occasion. Was a surprise inclusion in the starting 11. I thought he started the game really well, and it was so great to see him back on the pitch. And I thought, obviously, his challenge from Neto's loose pass led to the first goal. I did think he started to look a bit rusty. He did seem to tire quite quickly, and I thought on the hour, as Bournemouth were starting to take control, or had control of that midfield, I should say, he was probably rightfully taken off. He didn't look 100% when he did get taken off, but I think in general it was a really good return, and I think the minutes will do him good.
I think I gave him a 7. I would have given him a 7, but then just A, for being there, B, for playing well. But I gave him an 8 because of that interception that led to the goal. Vital bit of kind of reading the game, and really important. And I think realistically, Ange would have agreed with him before the game. You're not getting longer than 60 minutes. And I thought he was kind of blowing after about 10 minutes, which makes sense. He hasn't played much football, but he put it in there. He put a shifter in, and I give him an 8 on the basis that he also was responsible for the goal, really.
Yeah, 100%. Really great to have him back. Next up, Papa Matasar. We both gave him 8. Only played half an hour, but a brilliant half an hour it was. He was probably our best player in that opening bit of the game. Obviously got the goal with a brilliant finish on the edge of the area. And I just thought he was absolutely everywhere. What I really love about Sarr is when he has that confidence to take a touch inside and just breeze past the player, attack the space. When he sees the space, like the difference between someone like him or a Skip or Højbjerg, I feel like when Sarr sees that little bit of space in front of a play, he's not scared to just drive into it and take someone on. Whereas I feel like Højbjerg and Skip, they don't have that confidence to even attempt it. They'll usually just turn back and either pass sideways or backwards. That's what they're more interested in doing. And that's what I absolutely love about Papa Matasar. I thought he was absolutely dominating before he went off injured. Obviously, he was very emotional with the injury he did pick up. Thankfully, it seems as though it's not as bad as he had first feared. But he had a brilliant first half an hour. It's just a shame that it was his game was cut short.
Yeah, I completely agree. What's great about Sarr is he's not like blessed with raw pace, but his legs are so long that he can just get a touch round someone and then break the play up and then run the length of the pitch. He is proving to be an incredible signing. His value now, his transfer value would be absolutely huge. I heard someone say it, I'm going to steal it, it's absolutely true. If he was playing at Brighton, Chelsea would be looking to pay £110 million for this player. That's how good he is at his age. And because he's at Spurs and we're signing up to a new contract, he's now going to become a Spurs legend. I'm sure of it. He'll be with us for at least the next 4 or 5 years. And he's only going to get better as he fills out and he gets more muscular and more physical. He is going to be a hard-to-stop box-to-box midfielder as long as he can stay fit. So I hope he goes out and has a great African Nations Cup. Looks like it's not going to be the injury's not going to stop him from playing there. And then come back fit and healthy for us to go on a really great run in February and beyond.
Absolutely right, and it's great for him to sign off with a goal as well. Next up, Giovanni Lo Celso getting a start in this game. We both gave him 9s. Obviously, got 2 assists at the end of the game. It was the first one was just following up from Bentancur's interception. He made a good tackle, fell to Sarr, and obviously he scored. The second one, a beautiful outside of the boot pass to Heung-min Son for our second goal, which helped wrap up the points or give us a double our lead. I mean, brilliant assist, and I thought in general he was driving us forward, especially in transition. I thought he was a really great creative spark on the ball, but actually off the ball as well. Was doing his defensive duties, was really getting stuck in, really getting involved defensively as well. So I thought overall a brilliant central midfield performance from Lo Celso, and hopefully if he can continue this to perform like this, he's got a place in this team.
Completely agree, and he's just got to stay fit. The key thing, he's got to stay fit, because he, every so often, you mentioned it earlier, he had a good run under Jose and stuff, and he had a good couple of games earlier this season, a month or so ago, and then he picks up another niggle. It's so important that he stays fit, because when he is fit and at his best, as he was yesterday, there aren't that many players like him. He's pretty unique. That pass for Son's goal, oh my God. He showed in that one move how different he is to Pierre Højbjerg, because Højbjerg would have taken a touch, taken another touch, and the whole thing is gone. And he's got the whole shape of play ahead of him. So much so that it didn't even come perfectly on his left foot. He's had to hit it with the outside of his left foot because it's come almost closer towards his right foot, but he's still got enough on it to put him in perfectly. So easily worthy of a 9 yesterday. A terrific performance, and I just wrap him in cotton wool, because he could be so huge for us this season if he can play 20 games. If he can play 20 Premier League games, then he will get assists and he will get goals. He already proved it, like at Man City, a brilliant finish. We get him in the right areas. He's a brilliant technical player. Lionel Messi, he's the player he wants playing with him for Argentina more than anybody else. Enough said.
There we go. Can't argue with the GOAT. Next up, we are talking about Richarlison. We both gave him a 7. I don't think it was his best game. Obviously, it was did carry on his scoring form with a really good first-time finish in the box, proper striker's finish, and it's something that we're hopefully going to be getting used to with Richarlison, because he's done it a few times already now this season. Did snatch a really big opportunity near the beginning of the second half. Then he played through by Son, and I thought obviously he just should have been more aware of his surroundings, because he could have taken a touch, could have waited for the ball a bit more, but completely snatched at it, and that could have been costly at the time if Bournemouth would have equalised. Luckily for us, we didn't. I thought there were a couple of good moments as well. I remember there was one moment in the first half he was able to hold the ball off from a Bournemouth centre-back and then play Sonny through, and Sonny ended up missing the chance. So there was some good stuff there, but I thought for large parts of the game he was a bit on the periphery.
Yeah, a 7 because he got his goal, but I think most importantly, he's showing that he can bounce back from it. He misses a big chance. He looked devastated, absolutely devastated. And the crowd were like a little bit shocked, presumably because for 10 years we're used to those chances being put away, right? You're right. You're right. He snatched at it a bit. He had more time. He didn't take it, but he didn't let his head drop. And more importantly, he kept making those runs, and Johnson found him with one. And that skill, I've said it before about the goal against Everton, that skill where the ball's coming at a pace across on the floor to sweep it in one motion, it's not as easy as he makes it look. And it shows that he's confident in his finishing at the moment. He didn't get caught offside too many times yesterday as he had done in the previous game. So hopefully he's learning in terms of the timing of his run a bit better. And he got his goal, 5 and 5. And I've said it, I've put my head on the block. If he stays in the team, he'll get 15 league goals. And if he gets 15 league goals, then Spurs will be there or thereabouts this season.
Well, only 9 more to go, so he's definitely getting there if he carries on this kind of form. Next up, Heung-min Son signing off to the Asia Cup with a goal. But I gave him an 8. Barnaby gives him a 7. I thought actually, for a large part of this game, he wasn't at his best. He did have, I think, one chance in the first half where he streams down the left-hand side and he goes for goal instead of looking for Johnson, and it was a poor finish. And then it was a bit of a weird moment. He was not involved in the game for large parts, and then he has another chance where Lo Celso plays him in with an outside the boot pass, and instead of going with his left foot, he tries to cut inside and gets tackled. And then it was like something switched that moment, and for the last 20 minutes he really became alive, and he got pretty much an identical chance like a few minutes later, and this time there was, didn't need to ask him twice, essentially. Went with his left foot. We now have clinical ears on both feet. Unbelievable finish across the face goal as well. Brilliant pass through to Richarlison, which set up his chance as well, which unbelievable move from him, which that was at 1-0 as well. And I thought for the last 20 minutes, he ended the game incredibly strongly. And for me, off the back of him getting goal as well, setting up chance for his teammates, I just ended with an 8.
Yeah. Did I go 7 for
7?
Sonny? Yeah, I just think he's carrying a knock. I really do. I think he's carrying a knock, and it showed in a chance he had early on in the first half on his left foot that I think Son at 100% peak fitness would have taken that either back on his right and bent it in the far corner, or gone earlier with a step over to the right, taking it on his left and put it into the far corner. He was kind of neither one or the other. And as a result, he just kind of hit it at the keeper. And then the chance you talked about as well, he's just like 2-3% off. So what I hope, I don't know when South Korea's first game is, but I hope he gets a bit of rest time. I really do. Kind of to see off that knock, and then has good performances out there, because it just shows, even not at 100%, still an elite finisher. That was an unbelievable goal. And yeah, the last 20 minutes was good. His confidence was back up after that. But, you know, he is the captain of our club. We're going to miss him. I hope he has a good tournament, but come back and then you get yourself to that 20-25 goal mark in the Premier League. And if you do that, it'll be amazing.
Yeah, and with that goal as well, he did end December with the most goal contributions out of any Premier League player. So just goes to show what I think we didn't need any proving, but it's brilliant for Sonny. Next up, Brennan Johnson, who was starting on the right wing. Both gave him a 7. Brilliant assist for our third goal. That seems to be like a classic Brennan Johnson move at this point, where that cut back first time on the run seems to be really getting better and better at that as the weeks go on. In terms of his overall performance, there was a few times where he was giving the Bournemouth left back a bit of trouble on that right-hand side, but unfortunately didn't really do it on too often. I don't think it was his best game, but he did end up with an assist, so I gave him a 7.
Yeah, I gave him a 7 as well. I'm just excited for the future with Brennan Johnson, because I think eventually he will believe that he's one of the main players in this team, and that he will start being more brave on the ball as a result. But he makes good runs. He works really hard. It wasn't his best game, but that was definitely a lovely moment and a great cross. And his teammates clearly believe in him, which I think is really important as well. You can see, you know, Sonny did an interview with him after one of the games recently, said he was sad because he wanted Brennan to score. And he's getting in the right places. He's getting in the right areas and making some good decisions a lot of the time. So he's going to be a great player for Spurs in the long term. He's probably played a few more minutes than Ange would have expected at this stage because of injuries and stuff. But he's already got a lot of goal contributions, and that's credit to him. Yeah,
I believe it's 1 goal and 5 assists now for Brennan Johnson in his start to Spurs life. So not doing too badly, I would say. First substitute was Ollie Skip, came on for Pat Matasar in the first half. We both gave him 6. I did think he struggled, to be honest, for a large part of this game. Obviously, he didn't give us what Sarr was giving us for that first half an hour, just his drive forward and obviously that bit of quality on the ball as well. I did think it helped him when Højbjerg came on and they were able to move it to a double pivot, and all of a sudden we started to get a bit more control in the game, and Skip did look a bit more comfortable in that bit of the game. So that's why I gave him a 6. But I did think for large parts before Højbjerg came on and we changed it late on, he was struggling to really impact the game.
Yeah, I love Oliver Skip. I think he's a talented player, but he is at a key pivotal moment in his Spurs career right now, I think. If he doesn't kind of really pick up his form over the next 4 or 5 games, then I think he will end up on the periphery for the rest of the season. And it may well be that he doesn't last beyond the summer. He is a good, honest player. He's very talented, but I just don't feel his confidence is up at the moment. And he needs something to happen to him for him to really believe that he's the right player to be playing in midfield for Ange Postecoglou's side. I thought he did okay, but no better. Always works hard, and that's good. I can't discredit anyone when they work as hard as they can, and he always does. But he's going to have to show us something that he's not at the moment if he wants to stay in the side.
The bit frustrating for Skip, though, is we were talking about him maybe potentially getting a run after that game against Everton. Yeah. And now Bentancur's back, and Bentancur's unexpectedly, and he's probably going to be taking what I think is Skip's favoured position in the 6. So if Skip is going to get a run in the team, it's probably going to be in the number 8, which I just don't see him showing what he needs to show in that position. As much as good for Spurs, for Skip on Skip's point of view, maybe a bit frustrating that Bentancur's made such an unexpected return so early on. Yep. Next up, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. We both gave him 7s. I thought he had a pretty good cameo. I think he really helped us to wrestle back control of the game when he did come on. He does, come with some classic Højbjerg brainless moments, which, he definitely had some in this game, when especially when he made a pass to Valise where Son would have been through on goal if he would have made that pass correctly. But I actually thought it was a pretty good cameo from him. I thought he really helped us see out the game, and we were definitely struggling at the point when he came on, and from that point on, we definitely got more of a foothold in the game when he was on.
Yeah, he's actually quite good coming off the bench, Højbjerg. He does help us wrestle control of the game, but he also does some stuff that I know will churn, or I feel confident that will churn Ange up like on the inside. And it's just I've said it before, but it's just those things where he takes an extra touch where he doesn't need to, or it takes him an extra half a second to get a pass away where other players would play it first time, like Lo Celso or Bentancur always would. And then the one where he tried to play it through to Valise when Sonny was on his left was just an example for me of how his peripheral vision just isn't at the elite level, whereas most, well, not most, but elite midfielders would always have a fuller picture around them from having scanned earlier. So I thought he did well, but again, showed some examples of why he's not going to be an Ange player for too much longer. But yeah, I thought he did well, 7.
All right, Brian Hill, I gave him a 5. Barnaby gives him a 6. Probably guilty of one of our misses of the season, probably with his header, which was right under the bar and wasn't able to turn it home. It must be frustrating for him. Came on the right-hand side in this game for the last, I think, what was it? Was it 3-0 already? I think it was the last 10 minutes or so. I did think he struggled to really to make any sort of attacking contributions. He did try and link up, play a few quick pass and move, but when it came to really, getting to the byline, trying to provide some sort of quality delivery, wasn't really up to it. Did get out-muscled a few times when some of the Bournemouth players were confronting him. I thought he did well, but wasn't a great cameo.
Yeah, kind of underwhelming a little bit. Always works hard and bustles about, but yeah, it's disappointing that he missed the header. It was a bit behind him, you got to say that. He kind of had to bend his neck around a bit. And, realistically, when you've got Pierre-Emile Højbjerg on the touchline, what was he expecting, really? He probably wasn't expecting a great deal, but it came just behind him, nearly scored. It would have been nice for him to score. Yeah, I'm waiting for Brian Hill to show me something to make me think that you're going to be around past January or this summer. And at the moment, if he stays at Tottenham past January, I think it'll only be because of injuries. And maybe we'll look to cut our losses in the summer. But I would love to be proven wrong. There's definitely a talent there. But yeah, just one of those players who it doesn't feel like it's going to happen at Spurs.
And we'll just quickly touch on Dyer and Valise. Obviously, they came on 85 minutes. Didn't give them a rating because they didn't play for that long. But is it well, some people are saying it's not a coincidence that Dyer comes on an 83 and we concede an 84. So,
well, I think it was coincidence. It was more Emerson Royale's fault, and but a good one for the Dyer hating narrative Twitter fans. But look, Eric Dyer's confidence must be in the mud at the moment. He's literally watching every player being picked ahead of him, and then I don't doubt that he knows that a lot of the Tottenham fan base are glad that every player is being picked ahead of him. So I feel for him a little bit, but he didn't do anything wrong for me when he came on. But yeah, he just wasn't on long enough for a rating. And Valise, for me, Valise, just unfortunate to get injured. He was injured by, as far as I remember it, just kind of trying to get a shot away, bustling around the box. He's an interesting little player, Valise. I think it'll be interesting to see how he develops at Spurs. Obviously, he walked away, I think, in a leg brace and on crutches, so we may not see him for a while, but interesting signing we've made for the future.
Definitely. Let's hope his injury is not too bad. Last but not least is Ange Postecoglou. I gave him a 9. Barnaby gives him a 7. The reason I gave him a 9, I know it wasn't the best performance of the season. I did think he managed the game well in terms of changing it when we needed it to be changed and positively changing it as well in the second half and wrestled control back of the game. Obviously, I thought we started the game really strong, got the lead, and I thought we were playing really well up until then. Obviously, he showed that passion with a little bit of fight with Iraola on the bench as well. I don't know whether I'm giving him a mark up or down for that, but definitely worth a mention. And I think he did manage the game well. And to have us in this position, I think is just astonishing. To be 3 points off the top of the league at the time of filming. Obviously, Liverpool play later, but even if it's 6 points off the top of the league, at this point in the season, considering all the injuries we have and all the circumstances we've been through this season, I thought he was doing an astonishing job. And I think, games like yesterday, I think, again, show that even in games where we're not playing well, we are second best, he can still manage those games well and affect and change them positively, a positive change. So I think he did a brilliant job, and overall he's doing unbelievable.
Oh yeah, overall he is for me the most. I've said it before. I think he might end up being our most successful manager since Bill Nicholson. That I've said that. I'm willing to put my head on the block on that. The reason I gave him a 7 for yesterday is I thought Bournemouth played really well and tactically were very strong. We won the game, so I think you'd expect us to win at home. I didn't see any kind of huge changes that Ange made at any point that made me think, oh, this is an 8 or a 9, but we got the win, so maybe I should have given him an 8, but I will give him a 7. Also, it was cool to see him lose his rag, show his passion. I love him. I love him. I'm so excited. I'm just so scared just because of his size that he's going to have some kind of medical issue. I don't want that to happen. Big Ange, you stay with us for as long as possible.
Well, people are worried about the cough he has. So
I think that's a nervous cough.
I mean, it's very consistent.
Comes up in injuries. Sorry, in interviews. That was Freudian for me.
Let's hope he can sort that out. All right, that is it for our player ratings. Let me know in the comments section below what your player ratings are and if you agree with our ratings. Next, move on to the 5 takeaways. 5 things we can learn from the game. And we'll start off with all action Gio. And this is revolving Giovanni Lo Celso. And, you know, Lo Celso got a lot of praise yesterday for his on-the-ball abilities. We saw how much quality he got. He had 3 out of 3 dribbles completed, 2 key passes, 2 assists, completed 2 out of 2 long passes as well. But I don't think he gets enough praise for how much he was doing off the ball as well. He won 11 of his 14 ground duels, which is more than anyone else on the pitch. He completed 1 interception and 4 tackles, which is more than any other midfielder as well on the pitch as well. So showing both sides to his game there, Giovanni Lo Celso. And when he's in that kind of form, that's what really can separate him from the other midfielders.
Yeah, absolutely. 4 of those tackles, all 4 of them were slide along the ground with both of his knees, I think, probably. But yeah, I'll continue to say about Lo Celso, if he stays fit, gets on the pitch and is able to play at his top level like that, then, you know, we are very lucky to have him. It's just that we haven't seen enough of it. But yeah, yesterday specifically, really impressive performance, worthy of all of our credit that he gets. And yeah, I want to see him kind of being happy to be one of 6 or 7 central midfield options that we have, so that we can pick on form and fitness and not just because we've only got those options. That is something that we haven't really been able to have this season so far. But if we get to that and Ange is able to bring in the players that he wants, I think Lo Celso will be one of those options. And, you know, Ange only ever speaks well of him. It was a very impressive performance, and we're really starting to see now why Messi loves him so much, why he's so vital to that Argentinian side. He was obviously out for the World Cup, which was unfortunate for him, but they love him in the national team. And I love him when he's playing like that too. And we've got this lovely little nucleus of South American players now who all like to hang out with each other, obviously. And that can really help morale as well. So I think at the moment, if any of you out there are wondering whether we should keep him or not, I'm not wondering. I think we absolutely should.
All right, next takeaway is transition Spurs. And this is, I felt like yesterday, Spurs winning a game of football in a different kind of way to maybe how we've got a lot of our wins this season. Actually, when we in the first half, we dominated possession in terms of the stats. We had 56% possession in the first half, but we did struggle to really create many chances, only 0.35 XG. In fact, some of our better chances did come in the transition. I remember one from Heung-min Son on the breakaway, which obviously his shot was only straight at the keeper. The goal we scored was obviously an interception from a pass from the goalkeeper as well. But the second half, we did generate 1.79 XG in that second half with only 44% possession, and a lot of our chances again coming on the counter-attacks, bringing on Bournemouth, which is definitely a different kind of side to Spurs, I feel, in terms of being effective on the counter like we were yesterday than maybe a lot of our performances this season. So it's good that we in these kind of games where a really informed Bournemouth side were dominating possession, but we found a different way to win.
Yeah, important to have different strings to your bow. And as I've mentioned, like obviously they have been coached in playing transitional counter-attack football for a couple of years before Ange was there with Antonio Conte. So it won't be that they won't know how to do it, won't remember how to do it. I'm not so sure that I think Ange will have said at halftime, play more in that way and you'll have more success, because I think that's not very Ange. I think it's more maybe to do with the fact that Bournemouth dropped off after 60 minutes a little bit, and also it seemed like he did change it into like a 4-2-3-1 with Pierre and Skippy playing in the kind of 2 defensive central midfielder roles, and that suited them a bit better, which allowed us to win the ball a bit better and get the ball to our forward players a little easier. So yes, I agree. I think a lot of it really probably in terms of our transitional success, though, also came from the fact that we had a team come at us who were always looking to attack. And therefore, we were not really, in the way they were pressing us, meant we weren't able to kind of keep possession for an elongated amount of time. It always felt like we were losing the ball relatively quickly. But yeah, look, we did what it took. We played well on the transition. Whatever way we can get the 3 points at the moment until we're getting our players back, I think is great for us.
Okay, third takeaway is Bentancur's surprise return, and it's incredible to think that it was only on the 26th of November against Aston Villa where he picked up an injury which was set to rule him out for 2.5 months, but unbelievably was back in the starting 11 on the weekend. Unbelievable that he was able to make such a quick return. In terms of how he played and what the stats say, he did make 5 clearances, 1 tackle, 1 interception, only won 1 of his 5 ground duels, and only completed 77% of his passes. So wasn't like the best vintage Bentancur performance. It only lasted an hour as well, and definitely didn't look 100%. But considering he was back so soon after that injury, and considering we got all these midfielders out for January as well, it's definitely a positive return. And there definitely were positives. Obviously, his interception, the one interception we're talking about, which led to our first goal, was absolutely crucial to getting the ball rolling. So definitely signs of him getting back to something near his best, but clearly wasn't 100% in this one, was he?
No, wasn't 100%. You wouldn't expect him to be. He's ahead of schedule, and it's fantastic news. He'd been training all week apparently, and that's so cool that was happening, but also that we'd kind of not heard about it, because for me that means who else might be training that we're not going to be hearing about? Our players going to be able to come back a bit earlier than we're expecting. We're all hearing that maybe Maddison might be the end of the month or Van der Ven the middle of the month, but are there things happening behind closed doors that are speeding up the process? Look, the most important thing for me with Bentancur was A, that he got on the pitch, and B, that he didn't pick up another knock. So that will put some confidence into him, because let's not forget, it's not just the Matty Cash injury that he had. It was an ACL before that, and he'd only come back for like 20, 25 minutes. He really hadn't played a lot of football, and so it's going to take him a really long time to get up to proper match fitness. So 60 minutes on his first return after a month or so, and a secondary return after the ACL, incredibly impressive, and I think shows the strength of the man.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. I just don't know how he's made this return so quickly, but absolutely incredible stuff from Bentancur. Next takeaway is Emerson fills in, and look, for me, Emerson obviously has been filling in at centre-back for the past couple of games since Romero picked up that injury. I thought he had a bit of a disaster, in my opinion, at Brighton, but obviously Barnaby doesn't feel the same way. But I felt in this game he was a lot stronger. I felt, for me, he was a lot more accomplished. I thought we had a lot better game. In terms of the stats that read for him, 4 out of his 6 ground duels won, 5 out of 9 aerial duels won, 4 of his 7 long passes were completed, and one of those was obviously a really brilliant pass for Brennan Johnson, which set up the 3rd goal, 1 tackle and 2 interceptions. And I did think he was a lot more calm. I thought he was a lot more composed in this one. Look, Solanke was giving me a rough ride at some times, but I thought in general much better from Emerson Royal.
Yeah, I thought he played well. He's a trier. He's a good guy, and I gave him a markup just for that pass alone that set up the goal. Kind of, I guess you'd call it the pre-assist. It was a brave pass to take on down the line, and he executed it perfectly. Look, he's never ever going to be a 9 out of 10 player. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I just don't think he's kind of really elite level. But does he give you 100% every time? Yes. Is he a competent player? Absolutely. And we've seen it in interviews. Big Ange Postecoglou has said, sometimes I am much more comfortable picking players who maybe don't have the natural talent, but are not going to give you any problems personality-wise. And personality-wise, he's an excellent squad man, I think, Emerson Royal. And yeah, I agree with you, Sim. I think he played well yesterday. He's being asked to do something that is not his natural game. And therefore, when he puts in a performance like that, we have to give him all the credit we possibly can. And, I would never say about Emerson Royal, I think we should sell him, because I think you need players who are versatile and who work hard and put the team first. And players like him and Ben Davis are perfect examples of that. So even though he may not be the top level right back or centre back that we feel like we're going to need pushing on, I still would say he's likely to be at Spurs for a good while yet. And I'm happy with that.
And the last takeaway is in the thick of it, and this is towards our league table at the moment, our position in the league table. We're currently 5th on 39 points, but currently, at the time of filming, 3 points off the top of the league. Liverpool, who are on 42. It could be 6 by the end of the day. But look, Aston Villa seem to be running out of steam at the moment. Arsenal have only won 1 in their last 5 games. To have Tottenham with this result, beating an informed Bournemouth side off the back of also beating an informed Everton side, are we putting ourselves in and amongst it when it comes to talk for the title?
Look, I don't know. I'm wary of talking about the title, but if we get to the end of January and we've got a whole squad to choose from, and we're within 4, 5, 6 points of top spot at that point, it could be really interesting. Because also, I don't think we actually play anyone above us until kind of March. I think it's something like that. Obviously, we've got Old Trafford away next. That's going to be difficult. But they are dross, Manchester United, and they could easily throw in a terrible performance. It just so happens, though, that they actually seem to usually raise their game against Spurs at home. We don't have a great record there, but we could get a result there, especially if we get a new signing at centre back in and maybe Van der Ven back. Then that could change things a lot. But for me, I'm more looking at the end of January. Can we try and pick up three or 4 points out of the 2 Premier League games in January? If we could get 6, that would be unbelievable. But if we got 3 or 4 points, I'd be happy with that, because that would mean, I think, by the end of January, when those players are back, when I really think we can start getting on a real run again, it would be incredibly exciting. Nobody I have seen in the Premier League is better than us at the moment, like when we've got our full team. Man City, obviously, when they get De Bruyne back and Haaland back, and if they really click into gear, that's a different thing altogether. But we will give everyone a game. Nobody is better than us, and we are one of the teams who's capable of going on a huge run. So that's why I'm talking about the end of January. So I wouldn't rule anything out, but for me, it's just about, let's see how the next month goes.
Obviously, at the beginning of the season, even just something as simple as finishing above Arsenal seemed like a bit of a pipe dream, but only 1 point behind them now, going into the second half of the season, which is incredible to think about, considering some of the issues and injuries we've had. So you reckon there's a good chance we can finish above them this year?
I think Arsenal are good, I have to say. I think Arsenal, they're on a bad run at the moment, and their fans are starting to lose a bit of faith, which is really important, actually, because there's been a bit of a kind of resurgence of the fans and the club kind of being in support of one another over the last 2 seasons. If that can crack apart, then that could easily see them fall off on the pitch as well a little bit. But they are good, and they've spent a lot of money on Declan Rice, and he is a terrific player. If they were to get Ivan Toney in, which is being talked about, that could be problematic because he would be a great striker for them. But what I'd also say is they had to make David Raya a loan deal because of FFP. So I'm not sure where they're going to find 60 million quid to get Ivan Toney before the end of this season. So in answer to your question, I've kind of tumbled around that question a little bit. I'm not sure that I'm overly confident that we'll finish above them, but boy, is it hilarious at the moment, and it could happen because the way that they're kind of falling apart, and they're not scoring a lot of goals from their 3 up top, and that's where a lot of their success came last season, especially through Saka and Martinelli. So long may that continue. Look, yeah, we definitely could finish above them, but it's not something that I'm currently looking at as, okay, that's really likely or that's what's most important. I think for me, what's most important is if we can get to the end of January and we're in a similar situation, then we could get above everybody. Like we could get on a run where we could get above everybody, bar maybe Man City, but we'll see.
All right, that is it for the 5 takeaways. Let me know in the comments section below any of the takeaways you had for the game and anything we missed out. But without further ado, we will end the stream with reacts, how Twitter reacted to the win yesterday. So we'll just get that up 1 sec and we'll react to anything that was happening on social media around the game. Yeah, let's get it up. All right. So the first thing we'll be reacting to is from THFC Report, and this is Mickey Van der Ven at the game yesterday. I think who's he with? Maybe his girlfriend.
No, I think that's somebody from the Spurs media team.
Oh, you're probably right about that. Yeah. But I love seeing the injured players when they're still like getting involved in celebrating the wins. And there's Mickey Van der Ven on the sidelines there celebrating. And let's just hope he's back as soon as possible. He's so crucial. But absolutely love how happy he is that we're winning the game yesterday.
It strikes me just with that one. I wonder whether so she's kind of applauding very conservatively.
Then Mickey,
I kind of wonder whether she actually doesn't support Spurs. So she works for Spurs. I'm basing this on the fact that I've worked at a Premier League football club before that I don't support, and I wonder if she has to watch the game because she works for Spurs, but she doesn't really support Spurs. So when Spurs score or do well, she's like, oh yeah, great. And then Mickey Van der Ven knows this and is just like, no, I'm going to make you celebrate like me. And she's a bit embarrassed by it. So it could be that. That's all. That's my thought. But in the comments, let us know why you think that is happening. I think that's a really funny little video, to be honest.
Not a bad theory. Return of the Chelsea is pretty decent addition to 2023 that will stay forevermore. Well, yeah, this is something I really like. Before every game they play, when the Spurs on the trumpet, it really gets the crowd going before kickoff as well. And I really like this addition. And you know what? I got to give Spurs in general credit. For stuff they have been implementing for the match day experience, which is really improving, especially how Andrew's saying after games is turning into a nightclub and stuff. I really like the party atmosphere that it's turned into after wins and stuff like that. So I think definitely I've been critical of them not focusing on that enough, but definitely this season I'm definitely seeing big changes in that. So credit where credit's due.
Yeah, and So I'm a good friend of James Black, the voice of Spurs. Check him out if you don't follow him, who obviously wrote the I'm Loving Big Ange Instead song. And actually, to be fair,
we've had him on the show a few times.
Oh, great. Okay. So, and since the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was built, they've been employing him to do gigs, and they employ a lot of people to do gigs in the bars as well. So, look, let's not doubt there is a business element to that as well. Keeping people in the stadium for 3 hours after, or 2 or 3 hours after the game and 3 hours before the game does help. But also, it shows they haven't just built a breeze block grey ground with lots of seats in it. They are trying to make it an experience as well. I know some people would see that as negative, but I agree with you, Sim. I think that stuff like this is really important in terms of trying to find ways to make our ground as atmospheric as possible and make it as hard as possible for opposition teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think since we moved to the stadium, there has been a bit of a struggle doing that, but recently, I have to say, big improvements. Harley says, Son is so fake, and this is a reaction to, I guess this is like Son's ridiculous overperformance in XG, which he just has every single year. He's obviously on 12 Premier League goals. You can see he's accumulated about 7.12 XG. But if you actually look as well at the big chances missed, obviously Haaland sits right at the top with 17, and Son is 47th, only missed 3 big chances. And I think that goes to show just how clinical he is, because Haaland obviously got 14 Premier League goals, but if you look at the big chances missed, that just is basically evidence of how many chances he gets in general, whereas Son is just second in the league in terms of goals scored. Yeah, only missed 3 big chances, so he's just so clinical, isn't he? It's ridiculous.
Look, I'm going to start by saying that shows how Son is one of the world's elite finishers. Unbelievable. But it also goes with my theory that I've been peddling for years now, which is had Harry Kane got his move to Manchester City, he would score 60 or 70 goals all competitions in a season, because he would not have missed 17 big chances. I don't think he missed 17 big chances in his career at Spurs. Anyway, I know we're not talking about Bayern Munich's number 9, right? But as a club legend, I still think what an incredible player he was. But yes, in terms of finishing, Sonny is absolutely elite, and those stats prove that, and long may it continue.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous finisher, consistently being one of the best in Europe. AC with posting a video. This is Simon Huber accidentally blowing the whistle in Son's ear and then having a little laugh. So absolutely brilliant. Son's always good for a bit of banter, but
what's Son doing? The guy's got the whistle to his mouth. It's not like it's a ref. Son's walking towards him.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I don't know what Son's expecting, to be honest. he's probably expected a large.
It's funny every time you look at it.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. There's Tottenham, an old captain and the new captain. Hugo Lloris obviously saying his goodbyes to Human Son yesterday. Really lovely picture there. And there was obviously a lovely moment. We didn't really chat about it, but at halftime, Hugo did come onto the pitch and obviously was able to say his goodbye to the crowd. And he got a really good reception, and they played a lovely video and a nice little interview with Paul Coit as well.
Do you feel that his legacy has been tarnished in any way by this kind of last 6 months and the kind of it ending weirdly at halftime in that Newcastle thing, or I think we'll forget about that.
I hope so. Yeah, for me, it doesn't affect how I see it.
Yeah.
Do I think overall, in terms of amongst the Spurs fan base, will it affect some people? I'm sure, but I think overall, it's it's a footnote in what was a really great career for Hugo Lloris, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't do that. I don't know. I've liked that. The whole goal movie, I'm not sure we can sit here for an hour and a half watching a goal, so we're not going to do that. But if you have time, go watch that. Squawker says most league games played in Europe's Big 5 division in 2023. Heung-min Son, there you go. So it's top for most games played. That just goes to show how much we rely on him, isn't it? And at 31, is that a bit worrying though? At 31, you probably want to manage his minutes a bit better, don't you? At this point, or is it? Do you think Salah, I guess, plays every minute, doesn't he? So is it a big deal?
Not by this.
Yeah, I guess true. That's a fair point.
The thing that would worry me a little bit about that is that he also is. He obviously has to fly off to Asia for all the international games as well. So there's a lot of minutes in his legs. He plays all of those games too because he's captain. But look, Sonny plays with a smile on his face. He's incredibly fit. His dad takes him to the David Lloyd Training Centre for extra training after training at Spurs every day. If you haven't seen the sensational documentary, you'll see that. And also his dad doesn't allow him to have any social life whatsoever. So he's 100% Spurs. I know I'm saying that flippantly, but actually I believe that he is 100% football. I've seen interviews with Sonny where he talks about how he doesn't want to have another life while he's playing football. He's got plenty of time for that. So in terms of someone who treats their body the right way and prepares in the right way, I think that is what allows him to get on the pitch as much as he does.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Spurs Express with James Maddison on Instagram, and that's Son with I think his name's Leo, Maddison's son there, and he does seem to be everyone's favourite Uncle Sonny, doesn't he? He seems to be gets on with all the players' kids. It's absolutely brilliant.
Cute. I'd not seen that one. That is so cute. I love that, and I just love how much of the team spirit it shows. You know, it would be easy for Madders to be a bit jealous of his captain because you know he's one of the vice captains, but it's clear that they're a family, and I love stuff like this. So cute.
Absolutely brilliant. Huminator. Okay, we'll resolve this because just more pictures of Son and Hugo. But look, they're great pictures, aren't they? Absolutely really great nice. Seeing the captains. Brennan Johnson on Instagram says, how times have changed. And this is, first of all, the picture of him taking Richarlison out last season when Richarlison was doing that ball, exactly. And now this is Brennan setting Richarlison up and they're best mates. And he says, Happy New Year from me and Rishi, lad. So yeah, how times have changed. It's funny how football works, isn't it, sometimes?
It is, and they're developing a bit of an understanding on the pitch as well. And you need those kind of understandings amongst pairs and trios within your teams to really push on to that next level. It's quite underrated how important things like that are. And if Brennan Johnson knows that Richarlison is going to make that run across his defender every time, then he's going to play that ball there and we're going to score a number of goals from it. So it's great to see that stuff, and I love it when you're able to see footballers take the mickey out of themselves as well. That's
I love that when the shows don't take it too seriously. Tottenham tweeting Luke Littler with Madders there. So Madders obviously probably had him in his box. He's obviously got his own personalised box.
He's not a Spurs fan though, I read.
No, I read he's a Man United fan, but obviously Madders must have invited him. He's absolutely ripping things up in the darts at the moment. Still in the PDC. Is it the PDC, the tournament?
It's the World,
the World Championships.
Sim, if you didn't know how old he was, how old do you think would you guess Luke Littler was?
I would have said probably like 27 or something.
I would say 33.
33. It's unbelievable how this guy is 16. It's absolutely crazy. But look, fair play to him. He's absolutely ripping it up at the moment. The World Championships just beat Van Barneveld, didn't. So unbelievable win for him. And yeah, Madders still obviously there every game, supporting the team. There's actually more Maddison videos as well we'll get to in a sec, but actually brilliant stuff. This is a video next of Sonny after the game, just walking down, obviously absolutely delighted with the win, holding his arms up. I don't know if he's giving someone a high five there.
Is that Rob Birch, the keeper coach? I think it is. Rob Birch used
with
to
Rob
be
Birch as well.
Spurs. He's the keeper coach now. Yeah,
absolutely love that. Spurs OTM says mood headed into 2024, and this is Son at the end of the game as well, going over to the South Stand, and this is
absolutely pumped.
And this is what I love. So the difference when between how Kane used to be with the fans and Son. Kane did obviously had a good relationship with the fans and used to come and give us a clap and everything, but he never had such outward shows of emotion like this. I felt like Sonny does.
I have to say that I think with Harry Kane, when the whole City thing happened, he lost a percentage of his love for the club at that point. He was back in the good old days of Poch and they come together. There was a lot of this kind of stuff. Don't you remember the Lions? Like the tweet he did about the Lions?
Fair. That is fair.
Jamie
you
Vardy
make a good point.
Back the Lions, the Lion King thing. So I think that day he was just like, right, I'm just going to be a professional now, and I'm going to find my way to the best thing for my career. Single-minded about it, and fair enough. I think Levy did do the dirty on him a bit, probably. But also, he signed a 6-year deal. If you give your brother the job as being your agent and you don't put a release clause in a 6-year deal, then you are responsible for that situation. But I agree with you. Sonny did sign a deal at Spurs when he was like 29, 30. And he's now the captain of the club. Harry Kane was never captain of Tottenham Hotspur. He took it on sometimes as a temporary thing, but Sonny's actually the captain, and he wouldn't be the captain if he didn't really love the club and want to be here for the long term. And I love to see this, yeah.
Yeah, these are my favourite things from Sonny. Bell says, Gio loves Sonny so much, and I love to see that as well, just them developing that relationship, and that's a brilliant hug, I'm sure, as after Lo Celso set him up with the goal as well. Yeah. Absolutely love that hug as well.
Here's the tweet I was
this is the tweet you were talking about from Chidi. It says, Spurs playing 4 fullbacks in defence are 1 point behind us. I don't even want to see an Arteta coach side with that many injuries. And yeah, I mean, I think he probably makes a good point, because imagine Arsenal without Saliba, Gabriel, Odegaard in like just out for long periods.
Yeah, this is
Rice as well, and Rice.
That's exactly what the next guy says in reply. He says it's equivalent to us losing Saliba and Gabriel, Odegaard and Rice. We'd be fighting relegation. And Chidi, and these are all Arsenal fans. Chidi, the guy who sent the original one, said our fans would excuse it as well. Look, you know, we've been very unlucky with injuries and suspensions, and we've dealt with it really well. But this just shows, like what I was talking about earlier, there's a little turn in the Arsenal fan base at the moment. And look, you know, maybe they'll win the next game and it won't mean a lot. But what a new year! What a new year! What a time!
Couldn't be going any better on New Year's Eve. Next up, it's from the Spurs Express. It's Pedro Por on Instagram saying, back to business, happy new year everyone, and here's to more wins. But I love that. I love how everyone's getting involved on the pigeon dance now with Richarlison, and it's absolutely brilliant. Everyone seems to be going
crazy in that picture.
Absolutely fantastic. Like? What a brilliant smile.
Yeah.
He looks like that meme. You know that meme, that guy who's smiling like that. I'm trying to remember who it is.
He's also got like a touch of the Freddie Mercury's about.
Freddie Mercury, interesting.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, no, it's great to see them doing the celebration together and stuff. And also, just good that Richarlison scored the 3rd goal, because when we were 3-0 up, then I'm like, okay, you can do your pigeon now, mate. We're probably not going to lose from here.
I've just realised they're both wearing red boots in this day and age. I remember a famous story. Timu Tainio said he wore red boots once to a game, and he's saying he was getting so much shit from the fans, like he never wore red boots again. But
I guess back in Tainio's day, like coloured boots were a little more rare. Now you have to wear what you're told, I guess.
Fair, true. Brian Hill also on Instagram after yesterday's victory saying, victory at home to close 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm convinced that 2024 will bring even better things. Lovely picture, him giving Vicario a little hug there after the game. Absolutely lovely. Big Vic. Some more pictures of Porro yesterday. Oh, well, same thing from him on Instagram, but some more pictures of him celebrating after the win. Good stuff. He's actually quite active on social media as well.
Yeah, the one below Porro doing a little dance. If you see the one below, sorry, not the picture.
This one, yeah. This is a video that Tottenham tweeted out. This is after the game as well, and this is what Andrew was saying about Spurs turning into a nightclub, because this is where they got the dance music on after the game, and Porro's having a little bit of a dance. Yeah, Free From Desire, exactly. Absolutely brilliant stuff, and Porro's absolutely loving it. Do you reckon he would be good on a night out, Porro?
I do, actually. Do you know what this stuff really reminds me of? Do you remember the last game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Everton before we went to the Champions League final? And the Everton fans were all chanting, we'll all be having a party when Tottenham win the cup. And then it turned into a genuine rave outside the stadium, because Brandon Block was there.
No, they did. Yeah, they did the music. Yeah,
outside, and it was a beautiful sunny May day, and we were just all dancing in the outside. Like, life could not get any better at that point, because there was a chance. There was a chance that we'd win the Champions League. That's something that Arsenal had never done, and like we would just be on the promised land. That lasted 22 seconds of the fight.
Yeah, if only. Amazon Prime tweeting out saying Son has found another level this season. They're saying now he's got 17 goal contributions this season after his goal yesterday, which actually outstrips his tally of the whole of last season, which was 16 goal contributions. After last season, was there any concern that maybe Son was getting beyond his best?
Yes.
There was.
Yeah, I worried. Lots of people were talking about it, and you have to think about it. You know, had his legs gone, was there a worry? But we didn't know anything about this injury he said that he was carrying. And if you're playing through the pain, and if you're having to take injections, it never really ends well. And last season was bad. And then, I don't know, I guess there was pressure for him probably to get out on the pitch with Harry Kane as well. They had such an important partnership together. And obviously last season just wasn't a good season. So, you know, yes, in answer to your question, I was worried about it, but he's really proven that wrong, and it's so good. He's such an elite player, such an elite finisher, and I cannot wait till we have the players back on the pitch who can just set him up with the chances that he deserves, because he's having to do a lot of work himself at the moment, but when Madders gets back on that pitch and the options that we can have in midfield when Madders is back, then Sonny will he will thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he is having to do a lot of the work himself, but he has got 8 goal contributions in December, more than any other Premier League player, which is brilliant. Cho tweeting out now, bring home the Asia Cup. And that's obviously Heung-min Son saying waving goodbye, signing off with the goal he scored yesterday.
Yeah, we're all South Korea fans now.
100%. We're actually going to be covering the games on our Korean channel if you want to go check that out. Hyun-min says Richie got scolded by Sonny. Do you think Sonny's talking about the miss maybe that, Sonny played Richie and he's bringing that up, do you think?
I think he might be.
Because this is right at the end of the game. I wonder what else he could be talking about. Richie doesn't like the whatever.
I feel like Sonny's like doing it as a very much like a half joke. Like it's kind of a joke, but also what the hell? And Richie then Richie reacts like, oh, I wish you hadn't brought that up. Oh God, you're right.
Absolutely love
but
that moment.
Cute. You've got to be able to take the piss out of each other too. You know, it's right. I think Sonny is genuinely, at least half of him really annoyed at him.
Because it was a beautiful through ball. EIF says an injury-ruled Spurs have rarely had their first choice 11 available and only 1 point behind Arsenal, who was supposed to be the team challenging City this season after multiple big money signings. I like that the neutrals are catching on now as well. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and actually, I thought this was going to say this, but it kind of doesn't, but it alludes to it. The fact that Arsenal fans have been so sure that they are going to be the team that's going to win the league this season, and they are the only team who can compete with City, and they are so far ahead of Spurs. Do you remember when we were so happy that we kind of turned Sheffield United around to beat them in the last minute? Arsenal fans were right honest, like, oh, you've won the league in September or whatever. And then actually it's Arsenal fans who are the most deluded. I'm sure of it. They don't have a clue what's going on. I think Arsenal are good this season, don't get me wrong. I think they'll be there or thereabouts, but they're not as good as Arsenal fans think they are. And like I said, it's starting to turn a bit and it is funny to watch.
Yeah, let's hope it keeps going in the same direction. The Spurs Express says 9 goals and assists now in 920 minutes for Richarlison this season. And look, he really is starting to turn it around when it comes to being productive, isn't he, Richarlison? And hopefully, look, you said he's going to get 15 Premier League goals. And since he came back from, he admitted about he had the mental problems he was having, the injury and the mental problems he was having. Like in terms of the minutes to how productive he's been, he has really been getting regular goal contributions, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think he feels like he's more a proper part of this team now, like an important part. And in this coming month, when Sonny's away, he's going to have to take that up another level. Really, just say I'm the leader here, like I'm one of the leaders. And that brings me to another question, actually, which we should talk about, is who's going to be captain when Sonny's away? But Rishi, I don't think will be captain, but he might get one of the vice-captain roles during that period. He has to show, I'm one of the leaders. And I think, and I've said it before, I think he thrives more when he's one of the main men. Like, if not the main man, the go-to guy. And I think there are goals to come from Richarlison that we haven't seen him scored yet. And I mean like goals where maybe he's breaking into the box and he just fires it into the top corner from outside the box. He's got that finish in him. I know he does. But what's important at the moment is he's turned round what was happening before, which was kind of snatching at chances and not quite getting them right. Now he's finishing goals well. Yes, he missed a difficult one yesterday, but then he bounced back, and that's massively important. And I think there's a player in Richarlison who could really make it at Tottenham Hotspur. And I think Ange probably thinks that too.
Do you reckon he's starting to turn people's opinions, or do you think people
5
are
and
still...
5.
Yeah, I think why not?
It's hard to score goals in the Premier League. Not many players score 15 league goals in a season. And I'm saying he will. He hasn't for Spurs yet, but he's capable of that. And not many players are, and certainly not many players who you can get at £60 million now. You know, what did Chelsea have to pay for Nicholas Jackson? 40-odd million, 45 million pounds? The guy is an absolute joke. Like, sure, he's a bit young, but he is dross, absolute dross. So, look, I think there's a player in Richarlison to come good. I really do.
In terms of that question you asked, who's going to be captain? I think the obvious choice is Ben Davies.
I think Ben Davies, yeah.
But Bentancur may be an outside shout.
If Bentancur's fit, then maybe it'll be Bentancur. But
yeah, I think
my instinct says Ben Davies, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tottenham obviously tweeting this is a video after the game. I actually love Ben Davies's reaction here. He just had a really tough affair, like that. That was a tough game kind of reaction.
He's just such a normal bloke, Ben Davies. He's not performative in any way. He's just like, 3 points.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. And everyone else is just like,
like playing up for the camera.
Buzzing, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. Great reactions there from the Spurs players. Richie's delighted. The next one is from Hotspur Reports. This is Maddison with his kid after Spurs scored yesterday. Brilliant video there. Maddison just celebrating with this kid there. Absolutely love to see it. Absolutely fantastic. He loves to be the main man, doesn't he?
Oh, I hadn't seen this next one either.
And the next one, this is Maddison before kickoff as the Spurs were ready to go out, and he's giving Sonny a big hug, just making sure that he's getting ready for the game. Absolutely love it. A little kiss there as well, a little kiss on the cheek.
I love these guys.
Love it. That's become a feature, because Romero, I think, all the South Americans, is very much a South American thing to give your teammates a little kiss on the cheek. But it looks like the English lads, English lads are adopting it as well now. Absolutely love it. What do you think of the white jumper? You a fan of it?
It looks like it's worth more than everything I own. I bet that's like probably 1,500 quid of jumper right there.
Absolutely. I'm glad it's white though. He's got with the programme. Yeah. Billy T says, huge win in more ridiculous circumstances. Bournemouth, a very impressive side. Unlucky today. One day when 100 players return from injury, Spurs are going to be absolutely brilliant. What a manager. And I couldn't agree more. I think under the circumstances, to get these results and also just to get us scoring the kind of goals we are scoring, even with these injuries, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even though I'm pretty sure Billy T blocked me about 6 years ago on Twitter, I always love his tweets. He's a hilarious bloke. And also when he's being serious about Spurs, also really nails exactly how I'm feeling as well. So I agree there.
Spurs OTM, this is Son with his celebration yesterday, the classic camera celebration there. Then it cuts to some Korean fans as well. Absolutely love that. I
think he just looked more relieved than anything when he got his goal yesterday.
Yeah,
Sonny,
because he'd missed a few chances, hadn't he? So I think he thought, the next one that comes to me, I can't miss that one. This is Sonny, always so happy for Richie, and this is Richie after his goal. You can see Sonny embracing him and look, giving him the point as well. He's always looking to give Richie more confidence, isn't he? I've always noticed that, Reece. Definitely since
he's a smart guy, Sonny. He knows how football players work and what they need and who needs an arm around the shoulder and when he needs to scream blue murder at Hugo Lloris in the changing room at half time. So he's a class act, Sonny. Love
Absolutely. And that is a brilliant picture of Sonny when it was absolutely bucketing it down at some points yesterday during the game. You had a
hailstorm, didn't you, as well?
Yeah, during the game. It was crazy. I thought that was what I thought wasn't going to play into our favour, but luckily we actually did score at that time. But yeah, there's a brilliant picture of Son in the rain there. This is a picture we did also see before of Son, Richarlison and Porro all doing the pigeon dance after Richarlison scoring. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Danny says, I'm loving Big Ange and said, Happy New Year, Spurs fans. And guess what? Only 1 point between us and the scum. This is Postecoglou walking off the pitch yesterday with his song, I'm loving Big Ange and said, being played over the speakers.
Nice bit with Gio and his daughter, I think, as well.
And then a little cameo from Decky there as well. I love watching the scenes after a big win there. Brilliant stuff. Tottenham tweeting saying same, and this is just Vicario after the game. The same mood, I'm assuming. Brilliant stuff. Love it. This video, Happy New Year, everybody. This is Human Son obviously waving goodbye. We touched on that before. Spurs Express says speedy recovery, Alejo. And yeah, obviously he looked like he was in serious pain. And obviously we mentioned before he did leave on crutches. So let's hope he is going to be okay. After that, he looked like in a lot of distress.
Yeah.
The video's been copyrighted, so we have to move on. Brilliant picture here from Craven Cottage with Fulham fans saying stop crying to the Arsenal fans. Absolutely love it. There was must have been a lot of crying Arsenal fans in the away end. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Spurs Watch says Giovanni Lo Celso versus Bournemouth, 92% pass, actually 60 touches, 34 out of 37 passes completed, 10 out of 13 ground duels, 9 ball recoveries, 4 fouls, 1, 3 out of 3 dribbles, 3 out of 3 tackles, 2 key passes and 2 assists. New contract soon with fingers crossed. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Big Ange getting stuck in. This was the incident yesterday where Ange got stuck in with Iraola, I think, accusing him of time wasting or something. But look, this was a real flashpoint during the game, wasn't it? When Ange Postecoglou was really getting irate with Iraola, and there was a real clash on the.
Was it at him or was it at one of his coaching staff? Because it seems like Iraola was trying to kind of drag someone away. I'm not really sure, but
I want to see where this. Yeah, it looked like coaching staff actually. If you scroll to the beginning of the video, it looks like it definitely started. But then Iraola does seem to get involved.
One thing you can guarantee is that Gio Lo Celso was right in the middle there, just like he did in the last game. Do you remember in the last game against Brighton, he ran up to João Pedro on the sideline, did go to one of them, get involved. Here, he's right in the middle again. And then when he gets booked afterwards, he's like, why am I getting booked? Well, because you're right in the middle of it. What are you doing?
It's interesting as well to see what in the thick of it, Brennan Johnson jumps in and tries to split everyone up, which is,
well, he's tiny.
That's quite interesting. Wouldn't have thought he would be the one to get in the middle of it, but there he is.
I think that was all a miscommunication, and then it was funny that he came out with this quote afterwares, like, "Oh, we were just offering each other's New Year,
Yeah, well, just wishing
Year's
New Year,
resolutions
absolutely
or whatever,
brilliant. This is a gif from one of the moments in that you can see Postecoglou, getting his finger out, really trying to go at one of the coaches. And the coach was like, once Postecoglou pulls the finger, he's like, all right, I'm getting out. I'm getting out of here. I'm not getting involved.
And then also the fact that it's on like the side of the pitch where there's quite a big steep ramp almost. It's like the Bournemouth guy just looks like he's falling backwards the whole time. It's great. There he goes.
Absolutely brilliant. This was Alejo Veliz going off the pitch yesterday with Postecoglou consoling him. That was really distressing scenes a bit after the game. What was the second person actually to come off the pitch crying, but let's hope he's all right. Doesn't look great at all for him.
Yeah, but why not take him on a stretcher then? Stop walking on it.
Yeah, it was strange as well because they had the stretcher out and then he decided to walk off. So very bit of an odd moment there, but look, we're wishing him all the best. But that is it for Reacts for the win against Bournemouth, and that is it for the live stream today. So thank you everyone for joining us on today's live stream for all the reaction to yesterday's victory. If you want to see more of Barnaby Slater, his link to his channel is in the title. Do you want to just plug anything?
So my daily Spurs content. Sorry, it's as if I've been on a live stream for 6 hours. It's called the Spurred On podcast. You can listen to it on all your favorite podcast platforms, be that Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but also at Barnaby Slater _, which is in the title of this live stream, is where you can find me on YouTube and all of that sweet Tottenham content. Give it a subscribe. Press the bell button, and then you'll get to see my stupid mug every day.
Absolutely. So look, everyone, go check out Barnaby Slater. But thank you everyone for joining us on today's live stream. Thank you for everyone who interacted with the comments and sent the super chats, and just for viewing the live stream. Really helps support the channel. So appreciate all of you out there. Go and enjoy the rest of your New Year's Day, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.